Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Mcintire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for our money, our finance, and our retirement. He is Chris Mcintire, president and founder of Mcintire Retirement Services, providing a little bit of perspective on the complex financial world, trying to uncomplicate the decisions that we need to make with our money in order to make financial progress. And Chris, we always appreciate the time that you share with us. Not an easy task in this day and age to try to uncomplicate the financial world.
Yeah, that's the understatement of the year there, buddy. As we all know, when you deal with things that can vary in price minute by minute, and every once in a while you get some big variations in there and some black swan type events, and long overdue corrections, dealing with some changes in some monetary policy. Certainly gives us peace of mind in knowing as an advisor that we recommend, some safe money strategies for our clients in and around that retirement standpoint. It's what allows us to sleep at night too.
And we're going to be talking about some of that today. Now, Chris, we have talked about a number of the different tools that are available for savers and investors and those proactive planners who are looking at their financial future: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, bank products, ETFs. What's the difference? What does each one of these do? We've arrived at some conclusions that probably no tool is a perfect tool, but each tool has a purpose. And we should carefully weigh the strengths and weaknesses, the benefits and the disadvantages of each and every tool, and compare it with what our specific goals are with our money to try to figure out which of the variety of different financial options are appropriate for helping us achieve certain goals. And no option is ever right for all our money, because each one has an area where it can help us achieve certain things, but also some things where it may not be the strongest. And so we've talked about these things, and today we want to talk about one of these specific tools that a lot of discussion surrounds. Sometimes it's made out to be almost the best thing since sliced bread, and then other times it is made out to be something that you should absolutely at all costs stay away from. And I don't think that either extreme is really true or accurate. It is simply a tool, and we've got to examine it for what it is. So, Chris, digging into this, we're going to be talking about annuities on today's program, something that a lot of people are curious about, something that is really hotly debated in the financial world.
Yeah, and probably very misunderstood by the average radio show listener here on our show, or the podcast listener, if you will. And they come in different shapes, different sizes. And like you said, Peter, nothing is perfect out there. That's why you want to have a number of tools in your toolbox. If you were going to call in a carpenter, he's going to show up with more than a hammer, right? Because he's got to he's got to do different things. So to use that analogy, as a fiduciary advisor that I am, and acting in clients' best interest, we want to look at all of the tools that are available out there and what of those tools are in the best interest of the clients. And for many of those, hedging the risk of them outliving their money is what an annuity, and the only thing on planet Earth that can do that is an annuity. Okay? We can break down the different types. So as we'll go through the show. So just to give it again, that other analogy, if we're all not going to put all our money in the same exact stock, right? We're going to use different companies, different types of stock for different types of risk. So like, for example, what's going on here in the early part of 2022, the first quarter, a lot of volatility. So most folks, we've been shifting into defensive type stocks, utility companies that perform better because we still have to turn the lights on. I don't have to go to Starbucks though, but I do need to turn the lights on. So again, diversifying in using all different types of strategies. So the insurance industry is what brings us the annuity concept here, Peter, and I'll let you kind of run back with it here just a bit.
Well, we hear that they are complex or that they are confusing. Chris, you mentioned that there are a number of different types of annuities, and maybe it's because there are different types that there is so much confusion around them, because we could be sort of describing one that doesn't necessarily have any of the qualities of the other. I heard a parable of three blind men that were tasked with describing an elephant, and one touched its trunk, one touched its tail, and the other touched its leg, and they all sort of described different things. And to me, it sounds like this is maybe a case with annuities as well, that there could be different descriptions of them based on the type of annuity, and that, because it gets lumped into the general category of annuities, could be a contributing factor to some of the confusion around them.
Yeah, it's a great perspective there, Peter. I'm going to use that one down the road here. Three blind men, tried to describe an elephant. Same thing with annuities. And we've got two distinct types and then a couple of subcategories. The two distinct types are a variable annuity, okay, versus a fixed annuity. So we've got one, let's call it, it would go in the growth category where you have risk to your principal. That's the variable annuity, hence the term variable. Okay. The fixed annuity is a safe aspect there where you don't have risk to your principal. Okay. So let's go back to the variable annuity there. Ones that we don't use in our practice. I'm just not, never have, not in favor of using those. They can have some pretty high internal expenses because of the investment risk that you're taking, and I just come at it from the standpoint of, look, is all that cost worth paying for when there might be some other viable alternatives, and I guess that's probably the strength of being independent. We can make those decisions. There's not some corporate entity that has a banner over the front of our office that says, this is what you're going to recommend no matter what. So the variable annuities are an insurance company has the annuity, let's call it a wrapper, okay, around a group of mutual funds, basically. And then they may promise you a guaranteed stream of income for as long as you're alive. So, hey, let's use a large number today. Let's say $500,000. And if you're 65 years old, maybe they'll pay you 4% of that $600,000 a year. So $24,000 a year. For as long as you're alive. You might have a spousal benefit and things like that. And then the insurance company then is hedging the risk on, the odds of your investments not performing well versus how long you live. And you pay that through some additional expenses, some income rider fees, some mortality expenses and things like that. So, in the variable annuity world, the bad things that can happen would be, dismal performance based off of stock and bonds. Okay. And so, I'm not necessarily in favor of those, because here's what happens. If you buy that variable annuity and 2 years into it, it's performed terribly because of stock market conditions. You may want to do something different, but you can't because you have that surrender charge schedule, and it would cost you even more money to transfer those funds out of there. So, if it's got risk to its principal, I'm just not in favor of, well, let's add some other surrender charges on it so that they're really locked into it. And, for our average listener out here today, I think they agree with that concept as well, too, by and large.
And annuities are not alone in the category of having multiple subcategories that can sometimes lead to a little bit of confusion. I mean, even if we go as simple as banks, there's checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, money markets. There are all different types of accounts that may serve different purposes and have different qualities. If we get into a little bit more advanced mutual funds or stocks, there are growth, there are income, there are large cap, small cap, mid cap, value. There are all different types that the description of one may not necessarily represent the description of all, but they sort of all go into this broad category, this basket. When we say stocks, they could be dividend producing or non-dividend producing stocks. There are a lot of variations there. And I think that is, Chris, one of the things that does lead to a little bit of confusion. I guess we need to understand the strengths and the weaknesses. So from a very high level, can you talk about where you think an annuity can play a role, what benefits you believe would be appropriate for an investor to consider the potential use of an annuity if they have these goals with their money?
Yeah, no question about it, Peter. And so, for our average client, and let's say somebody comes into the office and they've got $500,000 in a 401k, they're getting ready to retire. And they're, a moderately conservative investor or even moderate investor. They can handle some risk, but they don't want to lose 20% of their life savings going into retirement. So, what we would do is then explain all the different options that you have out there after doing a risk profile, obviously like you have to do, and explain the options that they have for growth. And we may recommend some, dividend paying stocks, like you said, Peter, that, give some degree of stability there because you got the dividends that come in. We may look at different types of bonds for part of that growth portfolio. And then also then explain how, like, where an annuity may come in. If they need an income supplement, do they need it now or do they maybe need it down the road? Is it something that they want to protect their spouse in case something happens that, hey, I've got an annuity in case I die, my spouse can turn that annuity on for income, help replace the Social Security that I was bringing to the table. That's where we use them quite a bit, kind of an income hedge, if you will. And we use the fixed annuities that pay a guaranteed interest rate, and then more commonly the fixed index annuity, which gives you the potential to have some index earnings without index losses. And yeah, you don't get all of the upside. You're not going to make all the money that the stock market does and then never have the ability to lose it. It is the fixed index annuity is a safe investment that is designed to compete against other safe investments. And they're backed by the claims paying ability of the insurance company. And you also have the state guarantee fund, depending on what state you live in there, for some extra layers of protection on there to give consumers peace of mind. Where we use it, though, is for having that safe money strategy. So let's say somebody with that $500,000 and we use $300,000 and put it in some moderately conservative investments to give them the daily liquidity that they might need. Okay, should they want to buy a new car or something like that. And then we might use the annuity that, look, if put $200,000 in a fixed index annuity as an example, and that annuity may be a 7-year annuity, might be a 10-year annuity based off of what the objectives are. Do they want a bonus going into it and that sort of thing that the insurance company can provide? Kind of the trade-off for the time. And then, it's pretty clear what the surrender charges in there. Those are listed. Annuities aren't money that you need to get out tomorrow. That's what your investment portfolio is used for, if you need big cash liquidations. But like for right now in this year, in 2022, we may have had folks that were drawing money out of their investment portfolio on a monthly basis, and we had money in the index annuity just in case something bad happened in the stock market, like all the crazy volatility we've had. We may say, look, let's not take money out of the investments that are down in value. Let's come over here and draw some money out of the index annuity that was safe. Okay. And give them time to recover. Sure.
You mentioned the market volatility, and I think a lot of savers and investors in particular are worried about the market volatility that we've seen here in the first quarter of 2022. Chris, would including an annuity into the portfolio help to stabilize the portfolio and reduce some of that volatility, maybe prevent some losses then?
Yeah, absolutely. And not just with stocks, but even with bonds, right? They're raising interest rates now. That puts downward pressure on bonds. And it's been, kind of like what happened in 2018, the last time they raised interest rates. So, and then, so the annuity can't lose any money. So it can be a good addition in there in an investment portfolio mix, if you will. We use them as a safe strategy. And folks, you've been hearing us on the show here for quite some time talking about utilizing some of these strategies. But boy, wouldn't it be nice to know going into this crazy world that we live in and into retirement that hey, I've got some money here. It's going to make it's got the potential to make a competitive rate of return when the market goes up, but it protects me when the market goes down. Who is that not in the best interest for, regardless of whatever, 30-second commercial you read on TV? And, it's how most of that stuff's just marketing garbage, and you got to know when to tune out, when to tune in. But for the average listener out there today, Peter, you and I do this all day, every day. We know all of the details and whatnot. And, that's why we like to do the radio show here and provide clear, unbiased information, let alone then a 30-second commercial saying, well, annuities pay commissions because they're bad. All right. Well, for some people, they're saying, look, I don't care how much money the insurance company pays you. They're not charging me a fee. My bank doesn't charge me a fee for a CD, but they're making money off of that. I just don't have to sign anything that discloses it.
Once again, we are talking with Chris Mcintire. And if you've got any questions, if you would like to weigh your options and understand the pros, the cons, the strengths, the weaknesses, the benefits, disadvantages of each option, and help to evaluate if it is appropriate to help you achieve your financial goals, pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. You can go online, McIntyreRetirementServices.com. Northwestern Ohio, you've got Mcintire Retirement Services and Chris Mcintire as your resource if you'd like to learn more, or if you'd like to run a review and analysis of your current portfolio and get a written income plan for retirement. They do make the offer for radio show and podcast listeners to get that together for you, to put that together with you, and to make sure that you are double checking and reviewing and evaluating your current tools and investments to make sure that they are the most appropriate for helping you achieve your important financial goals. Again, 800-868-1194. You mentioned low interest rates, Chris, and the impacts that could have on the bond side of the portfolio. Bonds themselves, bond funds can be impacted negatively by rising interest rates. Author Tom Hegna, in his book, Don't Worry, Retire Happy, said that in almost any portfolio, if you reach in and pull the bond portion out and replace that with a fixed or a fixed indexed annuity, that it will do three things: that it will lower overall portfolio risk, lower overall portfolio fees, and increase overall portfolio income. And then a well-known researcher, Roger Ibbotson, seconded that in a recent article in Wealth Management, saying that fixed indexed annuities beat out bonds in the portfolio. And so this low interest rate environment, but potentially, likely, according to the Fed, certainly rising interest rate environment, could put some additional pressures on what people have considered that safer, more conservative side of the portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are some great analogies from some very highly respected people in the industry, especially Roger Ibbotson. That's what we would call him. That's how I know him. And I think you said Ibbotson, but a lot of people are familiar with the Ibbotson or Ibbotson reports. The guy is hardly an insurance agent, right? He's a market guru and breaks down all the research. And especially in a rising interest rate environment, you're going to have looking for some other alternatives. Is it real estate? Is it other types of commodities? Is it an addition of a fixed index annuity that can give you some potential returns linked to the growth of several different types of indices out there? And, I've been using them for 21 years, Peter. So, I know how they work. I know where to use them, where not to use them. And, I deal with lots of engineers, and for some reason, they're the ones that, just don't quite grasp the concept a lot of times, or, maybe they read too much of Kiplinger's magazine, I guess.
Well,
I'm kidding out there, but still.
And to the point, Chris, as we started the program, no financial vehicle is perfect. Nothing possesses all benefits and no drawbacks or things that we need to consider. So we've talked about what annuities may do well. Where would they not be the best or strongest option? Or even if we are considering them, what would we need to be aware of when making that consideration?
Sure. Liquidity needs, if somebody wants to buy a second home in Fort Myers, Florida, for example, or relocate up here, downsizing, and they might need capital to, make a major purchase of something. That's not what you use an annuity for. If your risk appetite is very aggressive, and I'm going to make two sides to this argument, well, maybe you want to have all your money in a stock portfolio. I've got clients that are, pretty aggressive investors. I will say that this year, most of them have said, let's stop taking so much risk. It looks like we're in a different economic condition. And, a couple of the engineers actually said, I think we need to add one of those safe pieces into my portfolio now. We're in a somewhat of a challenging environment, let's say that. And, without casting any fear or doubts, that's not what we're on the show here to do. But, so I would not use them in a place where it might compromise someone's liquidity. I would use them in a place where someone has a desire for some safety. There's so many different types of what we use in our practice on the fixed or the fixed index annuity. Do they need an income? Do they need it now? Maybe they need it later, so, we have to use different selections. So, a fixed index annuity, I probably have 100 of them that I can choose from, right? Through different insurance companies. And that's where competition is good for the consumer. Some of them, are set up under the fiduciary model where they have a fee that you can charge to manage them. Some of them still are, pay the commissions to us, the writing agents. And most of our clients want, as long as you tell them how you get compensated, they don't care,
Well, people don't like losing money, don't like their money disappearing without them having anything to show for it. I think are a little concerned about the market right now. So the protection of principal, one of the strengths and qualities of an annuity that can be attractive. Chris, the protection of income is another one. One of the biggest concerns for especially retirees is the potential for that finite amount of money, the life savings that they have on day one of retirement, not to make it through the final days of retirement. Running out of money over the course of retirement is a big concern, but annuities can specifically help us address that. In fact, you mentioned that they're one of the only vehicles, if not the only vehicle, that can do this. Therefore, the income plan, specifically designing a retirement income plan, oftentimes can be benefited by the inclusion of and consideration of an annuity.
You're exactly right, Peter. And, and what is the specific design that you're trying to utilize that strategy for? Is it to have the ability to have your income increase over the course of time? That's one thing that certain annuities can have with them, is the ability to increase your income as well. Sometimes Social Security, the cost of living adjustment isn't keeping up with the real rate of inflation out there. Your pensions, for those of you that have them, many of them don't have cost of living adjustments anymore. So, if you're going to be retired for 20 years, what you're getting today isn't going to buy the same things in 20 years down the road. At least you should hope it doesn't, because that means we're in some serious economic conditions. But my father-in-law is 93 years old, and bless his heart, he retired at age 49 and his pension payment is still the same at age 93. 43 years later, he gets the same check. And I think we would all understand that it doesn't buy nearly what it once did.
Yeah. And so we need to pay attention to that. Maybe, Chris, in that case, you've seen and heard about and talked about laddering CDs, but structuring and laddering annuities, or using the annuities that can include the increasing income throughout the future, would be options there to help offset yet another big concern for savers and investors right now, which is that inflation we're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, structuring these pieces to, our concerns right now are interest rate risk on the bond side. Obviously, stocks are volatile, looking at, coming out of all the stimulus fed growth that we had on the other side of the coronavirus pandemic. And then some challenging economic conditions here, right? We don't always go up. Stocks get volatile. We've got, if you haven't watched the news lately, some conflicts there in Europe. We have a midterm election coming up here in November, which will And I don't know, I'm not a betting man here. I don't gamble much, but I would say we're probably going to get a change of power in one of the houses in the halls of Congress there, either the House or the Senate. Just from historical measures, that's what normally happens in the midterm election. The party that holds the presidency on average loses 22 seats in the House, and I think there are 30 or so incumbents on the Democratic Party that are not running for re-election. So that bodes, plays well into that historical preference there, and we'll see what happens there. I think economically, looking into 2022 or later into 2022 and 2023, hey, that could bode well for everybody. We get a balance of powers in Washington instead of one-sided politics. Doesn't always seem to do serve us all real well, right? Checks and balances, to be politically neutral here on a radio show.
Well, Chris, we've talked about market volatility, the fear, the real risk that we run of losing money in the market, and the fact that certain annuities can provide protection against the possibility of losses. We've talked about running out of income, that fear that will drain the accounts, and the fact that annuities can provide protection and contractual guarantees for a lifetime of income. We've talked about this loss of purchasing power and how many annuities can be structured to increase the income over our lifetime. Before the program, you talked about one other major area where a lot of people are concerned and really don't have a fantastic answer or understand the tools that are available. But annuities can also, in certain circumstances, provide us some protection against the potential of catastrophic or long-term healthcare costs and expenses.
Yes, absolutely. And some of them have some nice attributes where they allow you, or, you make a deposit, with an insurance company into an annuity that's got the promise to pay future benefits if you went into a long-term care facility. The nice thing about something like that is if you don't go into the nursing home facility, you still have all the money in the account that'll go to your beneficiaries. Plus, you can use it in between now and then as well. So good concept.
I think that was one of the big traditional concerns and drawbacks of annuities, because, at its core, Social Security is a government-sponsored, mandated annuity, and we all love the predictability, the reliability, the durability of the income. But Chris, if I pass away early, my share of Social Security doesn't go on to my family or my beneficiaries the same way that my money and my assets would. And so giving up my money and my assets to create an additional stream of income, while the security of that income would be attractive, I think a lot of people were very off-put by the possibility of losing control, losing access, or just losing out on that money for their family if something happened to them. But that's more something that has evolved and no longer a quality of the majority of annuities that are out there, correct?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Peter. We very rarely have an annuity that's annuitized, meaning, the insurance company makes a monthly payment out to you. A lot of times that's done in a Medicaid case where we're trying to, protect some assets. Most of the annuities nowadays, whether it's fixed, variable, have income benefits on them that promise you a certain guaranteed income. Plus, you still have the balance of the money in the annuity without turning it into the old school mentality that a lot of people have with annuities. Because some, you wouldn't believe how many people I still meet, Peter, and I'm sure you do as well, that say, hey, I don't think I want to put money in an annuity. I don't want to turn it over to an insurance company and die and they keep it. It's like, look, that's not the way it happens, and I don't know where they get that mentality from. It's been, I've been using these things for well over 20 years and, we don't have any of those, never did, but still so many people have that mentality yet. Yeah, Social Security and your pension are immediate annuities, right? You've been funding them over your entire working years. If you did a 401k rollover and move some money into an index annuity that's got an income element to it, hey, you still get to keep that money and grow it. You can, depending on the company, you can determine when you want to turn that income on. If you die, all the money that's left goes to your beneficiaries, plus it has the potential to grow. And a lot of times your income will grow each year by the growth of that annuity and never go back down with certain companies as well. So that's that increasing income for that inflation hedge. Yep. So I mean, they can really be a very valuable tool, should provide you some nice peace of mind, can reduce some of your management fees. A good comparison against some of the bond pieces that you're looking at right now, and just have some safe money, for crying out loud. That's in your best interest.
Well, not saying any particular vehicle is right or wrong, but if you assess your situation, if you go through a financial review and you drill down on your goals, what do you want your dollars to do? What jobs do they need to work toward helping you achieve, and really identify those goals, and then identify the financial options that can meet that description and help you to achieve those goals. You will go a long way in finding out what is appropriate or inappropriate. And Chris Mcintire, here to help you out with that, would be more than willing to sit down with you and have a quick discussion over the phone, ask a few questions, or a complimentary detailed forensic financial analysis, a review and strategy session to determine what, if any, financial vehicles or options or strategies can show you inherent advantages in achieving your goals. Again, Chris, I think that you do a great job in just laying out the facts. There is nothing perfect, but here are the qualities of certain various options in the financial world. Here's where they may or may not be appropriate, and let's figure out what is the best fit for each and every individual circumstance and situation, and put that plan together.
Yep, exactly. And trying to help educate the clients on their choices, and go through the good and the bad of everything, because like you say, nothing is perfect. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket, but if you're going to go into retirement, having a number of arrows in the quiver certainly should help alleviate some concerns that you have.
Always a pleasure speaking with Chris Mcintire. If you've got any questions, if you would like to have a conversation, if you would like to sit down for that complimentary review to get your game plan for retirement mapped out, pick up the phone and give a call. 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, we always appreciate your time here on the program.
My pleasure. Everybody be safe out there, and pray for peace. Thank you.
Visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.